And this made a big difference to a lot of people who felt very much alone and disconnected because there was no electricity. Back then, '98, not many phones were working. A lot of lines were down. And the one thing, the EOC, their only connection with the people was basically through our station. We were the only ones that were still on the air with a generator. And it was only through one thin phone line that managed to stay up that we maintained that connection with the EOC. I mean, this was back in '98, a little bit older technology. But that shows you how tenuous that connection can be. And depending on the strength of a storm or the hit of a storm, it could go either way. You could have more or less. So there's a lot to consider. And then the aftermath of a storm, weeks and months of recovery after Hurricane George, that was really rough. And we helped coordinate with the community where the relief supplies were, where they could get them. This is what local radio does where the rubber hits the road. And that's what we do.
Thank you, Zippy the Generator, too. Jim Williams, you have a real, not that new because you've been around since '98, but still HurricaneCity.com. Unique role in the communications process. How do you communicate the information, and how do you see your role?
Well, we do something called the Hurricane Warning Show. And when hurricanes are within striking range, we feature, first of all, the site features the city most likely to be impacted. There's 152 cities in the database. For example, if Miami's going to get threatened, we feature Miami. When you click on Miami, it gets you right down to all the localized information. You have newspapers, radio stations, Twitter feeds, maps, everything you would need from the area to find out what's going on in that particular area. And the database, you can click on any of the cities in the database to get areas around where you happen to live, like the three in the Keys. We have Key Largo, Marathon, and Key West. So if any of those three cities are being impacted, we will feature them and you can get all the localized information. But the Hurricane Warning Show, we get callers from all over the country calling in. They're watching what's happening. And it's a completely interactive experience. Now, back in '98, it was audio only. Now we do video. And we not only bring information from a lot of the networks, the TV networks that provide information, but we have storm chaser cams and a lot of these webcams. They stay up during hurricanes sometimes. They're running on battery power. We have a split panel and show all the different camera shots. So people can get an idea of what's happening. Even though they're not there, they can kind of watch it on the internet as it's unfolding.
Let's go with a couple questions. I'm going to invite the audience to ask questions too, but I'm going to just start off with two here. First of all, and Jim, I'm going to let you deal with this. There's a lot of, you do put up the National Hurricane Center's information. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, we have GIS-based maps on the front page, and they're all shape files from the National Hurricane Center server. So it's all,
Most of your information is based on the hurricanes in terms of a threatening storm, or do you do your own interpretations, or?
Well, the tracking is what the site's mainly about, and we use the shapefile, like I said, from the FTP servers, but also we have a program that pulls the models out and shows the best performers and puts it on the map. But that's usually within the cone of error from the National Hurricane Center. So you can kind of get an idea of what the Hurricane Center's thinking when you see all the models within the cone of error. And so that's displayed automatically, and it's updated numerous times a day. I do a prediction scheme based on return rates and statistical analysis that goes back to 1871 and come up with a formula for that, but I don't have enough time to explain that all here right now. But when you look at the site, you can see the prediction scheme on there, but also the real-time tracking is what's important, and it's all based on real-time data from the Hurricane Center.
I'll let anybody take this question. There are a lot of other private weather services out there, whether it's AccuWeather, whatever, and sometimes even the Weather Channel, has their own interpretation of things that are going to happen. And a lot of times, quite honestly, they differ from what the Hurricane Center and what the National Weather Service has to say. I mean, how do you deal with that?
Is that correct with me?
Anyway, next.
Well, I think, everybody that's out there that has a hurricane tracking site like mine or that is out there talking about it, some of them are private forecasters that do their own forecasts. That's not what Hurricane City is about, but These people have a right to their opinion on where they think a storm is going to go. A lot of people pay them for that information. But at the end of the day, at Hurricane City, it's all NHC products being produced. So but these other people do have a right to do what they do, in my opinion, to give their opinion on where they think, based on what the models are saying, where a storm is going to go.
I mean, it's the United States of America. You're not going to be able to stop this sort of thing. The private sector can do. I mean, anybody can make a forecast. Anybody in here can make a forecast if you want to. But the behavioral scientists tell us that a consistent message is extremely important. If you don't have a consistent message, people either don't respond or they don't respond as quickly. So that's why I do not deviate from the National Hurricane Center forecast. And the Hurricane Center, I think, led the way in how the National Weather Service started handling probabilities on. I mean, we were never going to get a perfect forecast. I don't care. 100 years from now, we're never going to get that perfect forecast. So you have to deal with that uncertainty. And as Rick said, that uncertainty is getting less on the track anyway. That's good news. But you have to deal with that. And they do that by giving the probabilistic wind fields, the probabilistic storm surge now. And you need to be able to handle that. But you don't want to have the track on every which way. That does a real disservice in my opinion. Let me ask Jim the question. How do you say you have local, like, 3 cities and the Keys there, you give local information on, is that consistent with the National Weather Service information, or do you do your own thing?
Well, you guys are, I say you guys, you were a former director, but you guys do a really good job of narrowing it down 24 hours out. And usually when this hurricane is 150 miles or whatever, 100 miles east of Key West, and your cone is right down the center of that, and it deviates. The next nearest city is Marathon. If it looks like it's going to be, your cone is starting to shift, then we'll lean toward Marathon, if that's what the models are saying. But if it's
what does that mean, lean towards? I mean, with specific or determined or probabilistic wind, storm surge, rainfall, tornado information?
No. If we feature Marathon, for example, you click on Marathon, it gets all the localized information from Marathon, local Twitter feeds, local newspapers, local radio stations, like Bill Becker's station here. I mean, that's what we link to by featuring that city. Now they can always go and click on the next nearest city, which is Key West in the database, or Key Largo.
I don't want to dominate this. I'd really like to talk about the roles that different people play and the real team effort in the forecasters, the National Weather Service, and the emergency managers and the media. And the role of the forecaster is to make the best forecast possible, but it's not their role to open up shelters or reverse lane highways or to tell people when to evacuate. That's the role of your local emergency manager and local officials, as we saw in Jose's presentation there. You don't want, the Hurricane Center doesn't know all the intricacies of all the local municipalities up and down the entire coastline. Your local officials know that. And the emergency managers here, they're the guys that have written those hurricane plans. They know the clearance times, the timelines when things need to get done. So that's, we want to try to, in the media, get those important messages out, those emergency messages from your local officials and the forecast from hopefully a reliable source. We've all got a part to play there, and you've got to know who's doing what. And I will never second guess, a local emergency manager.
In some cases, a couple of models are going to get it right earlier than others, but in other cases, a different couple of models will get it right earlier.
How did everybody get it wrong for Sandy?
Not all of them did. There were a couple of models that showed a track toward North America 5-6 days out. But even at that stage, those models weren't exactly right. But I do think there is a little bit too much focus on the individual models because one was right in this one doesn't mean it's going to be right in the next one. And by focusing on model tracks too much, we're not focusing on the potential impact. And you have to, before you know how it's going to turn out,
is far better to focus on what we were saying 5, 6, 7, 8 about. We can't rule out some impact on the East Coast. That's the message, not that there are only 2 models going in there and the rest of them are not. Focusing more on impacts and not on model failures, because there are so many pitfalls with doing that.
One last question for the panel. These guys are going to be around in a couple of minutes, so feel free to come up. I'll talk again to the social media here, and one of the biggest issues I see from my business in terms of social media is the misinformation. So because there's so much, So, like, Bill, how do you handle that? Because you have interchange on the Key West.
Well, yeah. We get training through the National Weather Service Southern Region offices on generally a bi-weekly basis on how to identify incorrect information, incorrect images. You'll see one every hurricane of a shark swimming in the water near somebody's car or something like that. And it's a famous image, and there are websites you can go at. There's a image finder or Google you can use, and just put the image in there, and it'll tell you what the originating data of the image is, and somebody photoshopped something on it. For instance, in this past year at the Daytona 500, there was a tornado warning for the actual racetrack. Somebody took a picture of the Daytona racetrack and superimposed the tornado in the background and sent it out through Twitter. And a lot of the people who weren't fact-checking this would just push it right out to other people, and it grew and it grew. And eventually it got to the Weather Service office in Melbourne. They saw this. They were able to identify that it was not a good image given where the cell was in regard to the actual racetrack itself. And they were able to break down the rumor that this was an actual tornado at the racetrack. So we do get a lot of training on how to identify these fake images and what are some of the more credible organizations via social media.
And Jim, how about you? You're doing these live call-in shows right before a storm and during a storm hits. I mean, you're not a huge operation. You don't have 10 different producers fielding phone calls, obviously.
Yeah, I'm everything.
At least not yet, anyway.
Well, first of all, talking about the social networking and Twitter feeds and all that, the problem with Twitter I have is 140 character count is just, it's stupid. You can't really get the message out correctly. And I don't know if Rick Nabbs had any ability to influence the people at Twitter for emergencies, we have an emergency, we need more information out there, and you're cutting us off at 140 characters.
Well, we just speaking for ourselves at Hurricane Center, we use Twitter to get a short message out there and put a link, drive traffic to the website. It's a way to alert folks to something new in a timely, official manner.
Yeah,
we utilize images and links.
Yeah.
Twitter is not just what's in the 140 characters, what you link to.
If you got a link to an image that we create locally, you can put a lot more information on that image that you upload to Twitter, which would sort of circumnavigate the whole 140 character limitation that Twitter holds to. And that's what we try to do too.
We talk about that a lot on the shows. Watching the Twitter feed rolling, and you're just getting garbage on there. People, if you don't have anything important to say, don't say it. Just report observations, damage reports, retweet the Hurricane Center stuff, anything that's important about the situation, not just to talk about it for the sake of talking about it, because it clogs everything up.
Hey, one more question from the audience, if there's anything else out there. Jerry, I'm happy.
It might be noteworthy to point out that we have, not now, but Emergency Management has one of the only dedicated offices in the National Weather Service, the Key West office in the United States. And during storm events, an emergency management representative is in that office, and at times, according to John Rizzo, we broadcast most current and accurate updates, of course, after it had been sent to the emergency operations center. But that's a capability for timely and accurate updates.
Okay. I want to thank everybody who participated in the media panel.
Andy, one second.
Oh.
I just wanted to just say one thing.
Okay.
We're getting in the rainy season, and stop calling Channel 7 and send them to that big pub.
Up in Key Largo, I'm in parking lot to report on flooding. Okay, thank you, Steve. Anyway, thanks to all the media panelists here, and everybody out there.